right, we're gonna make sourdough einkorn today from start to finish. I'm so excited to share with you kind of the tips and the hacks and the different things I've learned about making sourdough einkorn bread. So my sourdough journey started a few years ago. I was sitting in one of my comfy chairs and randomly I heard a knock on my door. It was my Mennonite neighbor and she brought over this beautiful Einkorn sourdough loaf. And she said, have you ever heard of Einkorn before? And I said, no, what is it? Why Einkorn? So the recipe I'm gonna be making today for you guys is the French boulet out of this recipe book right here. So if you're ever going to dive into making sourdough einkorn, get this book. This is my favorite. You can get it on Amazon. So this is what I did. I'm like, okay, I was so overwhelmed by the whole process, this whole idea of making sourdough and einkorn, and it was just all new to me. So I ended up going to my Mennonite neighbor's house and she taught me how to do it. So I'm gonna teach you how to do it and what she taught me and how really simple it really is. Einkorn simply is a wheat. It is completely non-GMO'd and it's from Italy. It's better for your digestive system. It has a different gluten to it than regular wheat. So oftentimes people that can't have gluten can still have einkorn. It's a higher protein content. It's just healthier. It's a healthier wheat. In my bread making guide that you can download and print off, I have different sources of where you can get the flour, where you can get the einkorn, where you can get all of these things that I'm talking about right here. So if you want to see where to get all these things at different locations, be sure that you're printing off that guide. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any of these homesteady, cleaning up-y tips. So let's get diving right in here. So what are the different things that you need, supplies to making your sourdough? So you'll need a bowl. I like to double my recipe because I have a large family of 10. So I have a bowl here. You don't want metal. You can either use glass or material like this. You will want a linen cachet. This is basically just a linen cloth, or you can get like a poofing bowl like this, and this has a linen liner to it. So you want that. You're gonna need some Dutch ovens, okay? Dutch ovens to bake your sourdough in, and a scale. You'll want a scale because when you're using sourdough, it's better to weigh your things versus measure them. You'll get much better results that way. So I have my einkorn wheat here. I choose to grind our own flour with a grain mill. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. Now you don't have to have a grain mill and grind your own to make this recipe. You can just buy ground einkorn flour to make this recipe. The reason why I have a grain mill, I've had a grain mill now for 16 years. I've been grinding my own flour. And I'm gonna show you how easy it is to grind your own flour. And the reason why I do that is because flour, after it's been ground, it oxidizes in the first 24 to 48 hours. 80% of the nutrients in flour will oxidize in a short period of time, making 80% of those nutrients not available to your body. So when you buy flour over the counter, most of the nutrients in flour is not available to your body at all. So I think getting a mill is so worth it. Let me show you how easy it is. I need a little bit of flour to make my levain. So I'm gonna turn on my mill, a little bit loud. I'm gonna go ahead and grab my wheat. I'm gonna just grind it there, keep going until it finishes grinding. All right, so let's make our levain. So what you're gonna need is you're gonna need some water, sourdough starter. You can get starter from maybe your neighbor that's already making sourdough. You can buy it online. So you're gonna need your starter. Jovial.com, go to Jovial and they also have things like starter and different supplies like that. So I have my starter already here. My starter has been fed about 3 days ago, and I'll talk about how to feed your starter later, but it's really easy. So your sourdough starter, and then we've got the bowl that I'm going to make my levain in. You want to scale. You definitely want to scale. When you're using einkorn and sourdough, it's best to weigh it versus measure it. So I have it on grams, my scale, and then I have my flour. So this is what my flour looks like after I ground it. It's so easy. I don't have to strain it. It is so awesomely easy. There you go. All right, so this recipe calls for first putting in 30 grams of my starter right here, 30 grams of starter. I'm gonna double it, so I'm gonna do 60. It's very sticky, so einkorn is a very, very sticky. Now we need to add our water. So it calls for 130 grams of water, but I'm doubling it because I'm gonna make 2 loaves. I've got a lot of kids to feed. So I'm gonna do 260 grams of water. All right, perfect. And Okay, then we're gonna mix, mix, mix. After we've mixed it up, then we're just gonna add our flour. So again, we're making our levain the night before, and then I'm gonna make my loaf in the morning. So after you have this all mixed up a little bit here, then I'm gonna zero it out and add my flour, which is 240 grams. I need 240 grams of flour. Let's do it. Okay, guys, sourdough does not have to be hard at all. A lot of times people are intimidated by sourdough. They're like, oh, I can't do it. I'm too busy. I have to baby it and all that. But you really don't. The starter here is so forgiving, so incredibly forgiving. Oh my goodness, it is so worth having this nutritious bread. And it's way cheaper. Like this bread is probably worth $12 a loaf, how nutritious it is. Obviously, it's not gonna cost that much. All right, that's it. So I'm gonna cover it up, and in the morning, I can't wait to show you what it looks like after it's been sitting all night long. It's gonna bubble up, and then I'm gonna use it for my recipe tomorrow. So we will finish up this recipe tomorrow. All right, so we made our levain last night. So now we're gonna put the dough together to make our sourdough loaves today. I have my big bowl on the scale. So first thing I'm gonna do is put my levain in here. We talked about the health benefits of einkorn. Sourdough is basically fermented bread, and it makes it even easier for your body to digest the bread. And when that happens too, your body is able to utilize the nutrients in the bread as well. So it makes it even healthier. The next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna put our water in there. We need 315 grams of water, but I'm doubling it. So 315 plus 315 is 630. So I'm putting 630 grams of water. Okay. Perfecto. Now let's go ahead and mix that up. The next thing we are going to add is our flour. So last time we talked about the benefits of using a grain mill to grind your own flour. You don't have to have a grain mill to do this. You can get your flour already ground and buy it, but just consider that in the future if you are going to be making or baking on a regular basis at all. In my bread making guide, I also have a recipe for yeast sandwich bread that we love. That's so easy that you can freeze as well. So let's get this going here. We need 600 grams of flour. So this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna put half of my ground einkorn in here. 600 grams, and then I'm doubling my recipe for this. I'm making 2 loaves of sourdough. So it's 600, and I'm gonna put another 600 of the all-purpose einkorn. If the recipe calls for all-purpose einkorn, I just do 50-50 of the ground, and then it will make it more of a light loaf. Okay, we are good. So this one calls for a teaspoon and a half of salt, and I'm gonna eyeball it to 3 teaspoons of salt, again, because I'm making 2 loaves. All right, now so we're just gonna mix it all in. Mix, mix. Now, einkorn, you're not gonna treat it like the other types of wheat. It's different. So it's virtually a no-knead. You don't have to knead einkorn. It's a no-knead wheat. So I'm gonna mix this together. I'm gonna let it sit for 15 minutes, and then I'm going to do what they call folding the dough. Scrape the edges, and then they fold the dough, turn the dough every 15 minutes, 3 different times. And I'll show you how to do that and how easy that really is. All right, so we've let the dough sit for about 15 minutes. So with einkorn, it takes a little while for it to absorb the moisture. So you just want it to sit. It's gonna be very sticky. The dough typically is very, very, very sticky. So we flour our surface really well right here. We're gonna go ahead and put the sticky dough. It is super sticky. I like using a wooden spatula to do this. All right, you guys are gonna love the cleanup demo after this until I show you how to clean all this mess up, because baking bread can create quite the mess with the flour and the sticky dough residue and things like that. So I'll definitely show you how I love cleaning it all up. Then I'm going to knead it for about 2 minutes. So I'm just gonna knead it like this and work with my dough a little bit, like this, on the floured surface, kneading my dough for about 2 minutes. So you just work with it like this. Doesn't take long. All right, let's clean up the mess. Verity, ready to clean up the mess?
Nah.
All right, I'm gonna fold my einkorn one more time. So I did a total of 3 times for this recipe. Okay, again, why do I fold the dough? I fold the dough because einkorn gluten takes a little more time to develop, to absorb the moisture in the dough. And so folding the dough helps the gluten to develop. So again, to fold it, you just put it like in a triangle. You fold it halfway through there, halfway again, and then halfway one more time. It's that easy. Okay, so everything has been folded. Now I'm gonna stick it in my bowl for 5 hours while it sits there and ferments. We'll see you when it's done in 5 hours to put this bread dough together and stick it right into the preheated Dutch oven. We've got to clean up this mess though. Let's start cleaning up our mess while we wait for the dough to sit here and ferment for 5 hours. We're gonna clean up. I don't like to waste all this lovely high quality flour that's right here. So this is what I like to do with it. When you're making your sourdough, you're gonna want a linen cachet, or I have these poofing bowls with linen in there already. So you want to make sure that your linen cachet or your linen in here is nice and floured. So I use the leftover flour on my surface here and I sprinkle it all over my linen to make sure it's super floured, okay? You wanna make sure it's really floured so that your dough doesn't stick when you go to set it in there. All right, so I'm gonna put some over here. You can put it all over lay out your linen cachet and sprinkle all of that flour all over there, and then make sure nothing is wasted, no wasted flour. So when it comes to sticked on dough, the best tool to get it off is the Nourishing dishcloth, hands down. It's just wet with water, it's nylon, and then you just use this also to get all the dough off of your fingers as well. And you're gonna see dough is so sticky on your fingers. Get all that, I go like this with the cloth to get all the dough off. And then you're just gonna go over the sticky dough on here with the dishcloth first. And it's good not to let it sit for too long, like during the day, all of that dough. Just get it off as soon as you can. And I love how the dishcloth also gathers up that leftover flour that's on the surface too. So there you go. Use your dishcloth first on there. And then sometimes I'll just go ahead and use my little scraper if there's anything left over there. So if you have a really sticky mess, the spear sponge is also amazing. It's not gonna scratch anything. It gets off that dough really well. But for the most part, your dishcloth is gonna get it all off. So I'm gonna use my spear sponge a little bit for the leftover really sticked on stuff right there. I'm gonna use my dishcloth for the rest of this flour that's all over here like this. It is incredible how much this dishcloth will just scoop up that flour, and all the flour is in here now. So this will rinse out. You're just gonna go to your faucet, rinse, rub it together, and that flour will come out. And then I use this to clean my bowl, my sticky utensils and things like that. And then I'm gonna grab my Norwex kitchen cloth. You could also use a countertop cloth as well, or an Enviro cloth. This is just wet with water. This is the cloth that is picking up everything. Like, it is removing 99% of bacteria with just the cloth and water. And it is absorbing any other messes. The other day I was making yogurt and I spilt my milk mixture all over the place and it absorbed it and cleaned it all up like nothing. And so I just go over my home and over my kitchen with this cloth. When you're all done, you rinse under the faucet while rubbing it together, and then you just hang to dry. The silver embedded into the fibers is self-purifying, a self-purifying cloth. So you're not gonna have to launder this very often. Launder it about once a week and you're good to go. When you go to launder it, you just wash in the washer, dry in the dryer. Don't use fabric softener or bleach, and don't use a detergent that's filled with fillers. So I do love the Nourishing detergent because it does have enzymes in there, but it doesn't have the fillers and dyes and fragrances and things like that are yucky. And it goes a long way. This one bottle is good for over 200 loads, this one bottle. So love that. So these are a major staple in my home, is the kitchen cloths to clean up that mess, and that dishcloth and spear sponge to clean this doughy surfaces, the flour, and all of my baking dishes and things like that, making it so much easier. So I'm gonna go ahead and deep clean my sink real quick while I'm still waiting for my bread dough to continue to ferment. All right, so I'm gonna deep clean my sink. My sink is really grody from doing all kinds of things in the kitchen this week. So I'm gonna grab my cleaning paste. This is basically elbow grease in a jar. When you get it, it's a hard chunk. It's made out of marble flour, coconut oil, and traces of soap. The Norwex cleaning paste, oh my goodness, for the toughest jobs. It's great for my stove top. It's great for deep cleaning my sink, inside my oven, all the really tricky jobs. You'll have this for 4,000 uses, so it's made to last a really long time as well. So I'm gonna grab my wet spear sponge that we used to take some of that dough off of my surface before, and I'm just gonna wipe my cleaning paste with the spear sponge. So it has a little paste on there, and then I'm gonna go ahead to my grody sinks, And I'm gonna take it and I'm really gonna clean around. So this is replacing the throwaway pads that you'd buy in the store. Instead, you're gonna use this over and over and over again, and it is amazing for that grime. It's also great in the bathroom for grout as well. It's great for scuff marks and headlights on your car, all kinds of uses for the cleaning paste. And it's just so quick in getting the nasty growtiness off of your surfaces. I'll show you someday on how to use it on my oven as well. All right, so super clean. I'm just gonna rinse it off then, and I'm gonna grab my kitchen cloth, and I'm gonna take my kitchen cloth and just wipe around the back of my sink like this to get all the growtiness off so it's sparkly clean. My goodness, I love walking into a clean sink, don't you? Oh my goodness, sparkly clean. All right, we're gonna clean up the floor now of all of this grime. So I have a dry pad on the mop, on the Norwex mop, and I like to use that dry pad to pick up the dry flour that's on the floor, the crumbs and things like that. And I just swivel it like this, and it makes it so easy to clean up the dry stuff and the crumbs. So I'm gonna go through first with our dry pad, getting all the random stuff, the yard clippings, the flour mess, all of it. Okay, so I have a nice big pile of mess here that I'll pick up with my dustpan in just a minute. And then to clean my dry pad, I'm just gonna grab my rubber brush and I'm gonna brush it all into the garbage. So you can reuse this pad over and over and over again. You don't have to buy one-time use pads. Use this over and over and over again. So this pad here is picking up all the grime and 99% of bacteria with just water, not having to use any sprays or chemicals or anything like that, making it just so easy to clean. So I love having my mop around this area of the home because oftentimes I have to spot clean a lot when the kids are tracking through all kinds of mess from the barn. Yesterday they were using the pool, they went through and tracked all this like water mess. And so it makes it really easy just to spot clean when I want to spot clean my floor. So it's removing the bacteria and not leaving any streaks, just making it so easy with just water. So it's safe for any hard floor. It's good for hardwood, tile, linoleum, and you'll have this mop for years. It lasts a long time. I replace my pads maybe every 3 years or so, but you reuse it over and over again. When you're done mopping your floor with the wet pad, you're just gonna rinse it, hang your mop pad up to dry, and the silver inside of that embedded into the fibers will self-purify and self-clean that pad for you between uses. So you don't have to launder it very often, maybe once a month or so, and then you can adjust the handle to wherever you want it so you're not crouching down. You can easily get through the floors that you need to clean. So I'm gonna finish cleaning the kitchen floor now real quick, and then I'll be good to go. All right, so it has been sitting here fermenting for 3 to 5 hours. See how it kind of is bubbly, the dough? Oh, so glorious. So now, after it's been sitting there bubbling up for 3 to 5 hours and fermenting, I'm gonna go ahead and transfer my dough onto my lightly floured surface. All right, using a spatula to get the sticky dough out. I have enough dough here to make 2 loaves. Now I'm going to work with my dough a little bit more, add a little more flour on here, and I'm just gonna knead it a little bit and work with it. Yep, sticky, sticky, sticky. But don't worry, don't be afraid of the sticky. Sticky's good. I'm gonna work with it. Remember we talked about how to clean up this mess? So don't worry about the mess. Just grab a dishcloth after this and just clean it up. Oh, playing with flour dough or bread dough is pretty therapeutic. Okay, so I'm gonna do this for just a couple minutes here. So I've worked with it a little bit, kneading it just a little bit. You don't have to do that long, maybe about 2 minutes. I divided it into 2 because I'm making 2 loaves. Now I'm forming my dough. I made like a log right here, and I'm just gonna put all of the seams together into the center of my log. I'm gonna make a ball. Okay, you're just gonna make a ball and form a ball with it like this. Make sure it's nice and floured on the outside, and then you're gonna put it in your poofing bowl. That's it. Okay. Woo! Sticky! I'm gonna do it for the next one, put it in the bowl, and then after they're in here, we let them sit for 60 to 90 minutes. And then we're gonna put them in the oven. What you wanna do after these sit here for about 30 minutes, you wanna preheat your oven to 500 degrees. And you stick your Dutch oven in there to preheat and to heat up for about 30 minutes. What I do is I set the timer for 30 minutes, so I know to put on the oven. And then I set the timer for 30 more minutes, and then I know that it's time to put these into the oven to bake. So we'll see you when it's time to bake them. It is time to take our sourdough out of this blistering hot oven. Let's do it, let's do it. Show you what this looks like. Woo! Oh, that's what I'm talking about. Beautiful loaf right here. Now let's let that cool. I'm gonna go ahead and dump it out on my surface here. There you have it, folks. Sourdough einkorn with raspberry jam. So worth the work. Have fun.